hopefully the sound is on for this video. Maybe I can find somebody to let me know that fact. Welcome everybody. It's DayLife Mary. It's been a little bit, hasn't it? It's been a little while. There's always something wrong that keeps me from telling this story. The last time this happened was when I was retelling the story of my life. It was like the very beginning of me doing these live series this year, and I just, for the life of me, could not get to like part 4 or something because everything kept, just some shit was always wrong and it made me like lose my video or whatever. And that's happening for this part of this story too, which is closing the time on being cool. And I'm trying to get to part 4 of this story. I really am trying. And now the notes I have are on a phone that's about to die. So I'm just constantly shooting myself in the foot with this one. And Nick asks, where are you, the South? I do not give my location as per DayLife Army standard, but I am I can't hide my foliage, so I'm not in, Alaska. So I was telling the story of closing times on being cool, because if you aren't familiar with this idea of closing a time, for me, it's very hard for me to close the door, so to speak, on things, or for me it's times specifically, and I just leave territory unguarded, and my energy gets sucked into things that, the devil wants to trip me up with. The devil wants to take my energy and put it back into the PainMatrux and those principles or whatever distractions. And so the biggest one that I've been having, like the most difficult time for the last year, if I was to think of like a trend for this last year, closing what time? There's a few, but the big one, that's why I'm starting with it, is closing the time of being cool, or pursuing coolness. And who's the number one cool dude? Satan. So that's not something that I want to care about. And even though I deal with subcultures, the underground, and military intelligence's fabrication of all of those things, I don't want to get wrapped up in actually believing in the shit, which is what was starting to happen with me when I was covering certain things for my work here at DayLife Army. So I was telling a story that revolved around a few different threads, and I left off talking about Trevor Bazile, who was someone who briefly social washed, and I was talking about his departure and me letting him kind of go off my radar and head into the belly of the beast in the New York City underground scene, where he began to be in these circles of people I had been following online, etc., for a while, because I had a sick fascination with all of these ops who were operating completely in secret and pretending to be these naturally occurring scenes of dirtbag lefters, podcasters, artistes, poets, etc., etc. And Trevor was forming the festival that he had talked about and invited us to do. He kept it up and was forming it in New York City. It was called the NPC Fest, New People's Cinema. And I just want to preface this part of the timeline with this idea, or this way that military intelligence operates, which is that it's a machine that does not need a whole lot of human or demonic whatever intervention at this point. It's a lot of it's a well-oiled machine that does not need nearly as much overt manipulation. But there are people who direct, and there are entities that direct this underground and how it works and what becomes a thing and grows and who becomes a thing and grows. They pick, and this phenomena picks who becomes famous. Everyone that becomes famous was chosen to do so. If you were not, you will not. And if you weren't outright picked and fabricated, any authenticity will be sucked dry from you, and you will turn into what they want you to be in order for you to become famous. And if your best use is to be harvested through sacrifice or being murdered or any other type of harvest, there's a slot for you. It's a pipeline. It's very efficient. It's like not as efficient as God-given human bonds and connections, but the PainMatrux has been going for a long time. It's got a lot of resources and blood, sweat, and tears pumping into it constantly. So yeah, this is just to say that the storyline has been laid out, and you can be slotted into the storyline, but it's not going to change. And like, I don't know, these people that I've been talking about, yeah, they're just doing their jobs, and some of them are conscious of the job that they're doing. Some of them are completely demon-driven and don't even know. Some of them know a little, have ideas. Some are completely oblivious. And, you know, before I go any farther, I have to let you know that this and everything I do is sponsored by the Automat and Washing Belief. I wash belief every day to maintain and expand my own territory within the pleasure matrix. And the less I wash, the more easy it is for me to start to have my belief, like, untethered, I guess. So washing belief, the way you can start washing belief is through socially or financially washing. So if you haven't already, oh no, an ant there's some ants that are like bitey that are finding me. Make a wash of belief if you haven't already to cash.me/$washitall or paypal.me/washitall. That is where most people store their belief. Primarily, it's the place people can start. It's actually the easiest form of washing, believe it or not. So make sure you do make a wash of belief. It's how you redeem soul. And if you have more questions about that, I'm sure you can ask. So when I was not in contact with Trevor, and the reason I have Trevor as this like locus focal point about this story is because my relationship with him was not deep. We didn't know each other very well, but it was a sign that his story and mine and how they intersected meant something, and it's what prompted me to realize that I needed to close this door. And so I have it like, it's a way to like tie things together. So I wasn't in contact with him when he was putting on this fest, but like I was following the ops that were around that festival and who direct the Golden Dawn's kind of like takeover of the counterculture, going from like left to right as this whole like little season is accelerating. And a lot of people are being like, they're switching sides and selling out to the Golden Dawn side of things, which is like the two warring factions of Satan. Oh my gosh, I think I might need to leave because there's these ants that are like around me and biting me. What's the symbolism, bro? so I was like following what these people were up to and saw that they were like doing some festival and didn't even connect the dots that it was the thing Trevor put on. And I like saw that people were joking about it being teal. Like conspiracy theorists get their rocks off on saying, which is like, see, I told you, like I knew the thing before people. And that was like another part of like caring about clout or coolness that was holding me back. Like, and I could tell these things that were holding me back because like the energy just feels draining. And it's a part of why the story is still hard to tell, because I have like a real issue closing the door on this shit. And so like I feel self-conscious. I don't know, it's hard for me. And Saren says, the little season leading up to the final tribulation. Yeah, and like the thing about the little season is like Satan's gonna get real convincing that things are like good. Like he has to make things seem really, really bad. That's like this fake apocalypse that he puts on and that's manufactured. It's like HARP is creating fucking like wildfires and hurricanes. Like it's not the full force of God. You would know the difference. But then with the little season, it's like you have to make it seem really bad, and then like you present this false savior, right? This like antichrist, like things are going to be better now. And the way this intersects with the cultural underground and like the dirtbag left and the new right and that stupid fucking Vanity Fair article that just came out too, which was like also triggering for me because I was like, this is like the story that I'm telling on my live about closing the door and being cool. All the things that article are talking about are the things like that I was struggling with last year, like figuring out how to like weave this into something that was like I could take the power from those people and not just be like energetically feeding it by being like a hate watcher of that whole thing playing out. But the part that's also really difficult to tell about this is when I get personal to the storyline I'm trying to stick to right now. So Trevor is doing the NPC Fest. I don't even know what's going on, that it's him putting it on, but all of these figureheads from the dirtbag left, from the new right, all these people like fucking Mencius Moldbug, Curtis Yarvin is reading at this thing. Like, all of these ops that... I think the reason that I'm more angry at these ops is because they're like more convincing than the like straight like Antifa liberal SJW ops that like manufactured the dominant underground culture for like the last whatever 30-40 years, like to the sense it was made. So like these ones are like more convincing because they paved the territory with like MDE and Sam Hyde and like all these hipsters that knew conspiracy theory and could convince you that they were like doing something good or whatever. And it's just like even more insidious than the fucking Phoenix side of things. And I am jealous of that secret fucking oppie power. So let me try and get back to the storyline. That's happening. And what I did not know at the time, that I only found out through Twitter after the fact, was that the night of that festival, Trevor went to this debaucherous party after that was filled with satanic energy to the gills, right? And this is another thing where people are like, you have to feel like or seem like a really paranoid person to understand how this reality works truthfully. But what supposedly happened is like someone gives him a pill or some coke. I don't even know which one it was. And I'm having connection issues. It ends up being laced with fentanyl and he dies. He goes back to his apartment. A person, and this is all shoddily put. The official media narrative is cemented, which I will go in. Sorry, I was saying the official media narrative is cemented to be a part of the storyline of this manufactured story I've been talking about. But the narrative goes that, he just OD'd and someone was with him, like a friend, to notice in the middle of the night after staying up because he noticed he had hard time breathing, and falls asleep for a half hour apparently, and which that system relies on, making you seem crazy, because how could something work this to this level? But Trevor was sacrificed. He was a sacrifice to that part of the story. The Pain Matrix runs on ritual sacrifice, and while some of it is very, very clear cut, like some date happens and you go and sacrifice a fucking person at a place, like real straight up, there's also sacrifices that are just like energetically manufactured with a pill to give or a drug to sell to the right person at the right time. You all create a portal together. You summon this demonic energy, and like the exact right person who has the most authenticity and soul is sacrificed, and that energy and that story gets assimilated and used for the Pain Matrix agenda, which is him and the festival he put on were used by the ops in a domino effect of reasons. And how the media operates for the Pain Matrix will tie into this next part. When I found out about his death, a lot of different coincidences, which don't, I had been following this, like, the story of this girl who was one of the Red Scare podcast girls' roommates, who had she basically, like, had a really popular Instagram. I'll pick it up back when I have better connection. So, like I said before, make a wash of belief, cash.me/$washitall. If you want to wash crypto, if you want to wash in any other way, if you have no funds, DM me. There's lots of ways to wash, and that's really the only way to tether your belief to some other matrix. So I'll go into, I guess, next time, the whole BuzzFeed article, the bringing it back around to Joe Bernstein and MDE a little bit, $1 Million Extreme, and I guess now with this